Let's get something straight. A bad burger can ruin your lunch, but a bad steak? That can ruin your whole night, your mood, and maybe even your trust in humanity. And yet, millions of people keep walking through those steakhouse doors, smiling like they're about to eat the meal of their dreams, only to walk out wondering why they just paid fine dining prices for something that tasted like it came from a high school cafeteria. In 2025, not all steakhouses are created equal. Some are serving up juicy perfection that makes you want to high-five the chef. Others are basically committing culinary crimes against cows. So today, we're doing what needs to be done, cutting through the marketing fluff, tearing into the menus, and telling you which chains are worth your appetite and which ones deserve to be left off your GPS forever. Buckle up, because the first stop on our Meat Massacre tour is a place you've definitely heard of and probably trusted way too much. Applebees, the neighborhood disappointment. Applebee's calls itself a neighborhood grill. Cute, right? Except when it comes to steak, it's more like the neighborhood letdown. This is the kind of place that treats beef like it's on probation. Here's the problem. The crime against flavor starts before your steak even touches the grill. Applebee's drowns its steaks in so much pre-marinade that you couldn't taste the actual meat if you tried. It's like teaching someone to swim by holding their head underwater. All that seasoning isn't about flavor. It's about hiding the fact that they're using lower-grade cuts. And texture? Oh, don't get me started. Customers constantly complain that steaks here are tough, rubbery, or just plain sad. Ordering medium rare is like asking for a gentle hurricane. It's never going to happen the way you imagined. To make matters worse, those Instagram-worthy grill marks. You see, they're not always earned. Some locations have been caught using microwaves or flat-top reheats just to speed things up. Translation, your steak might be getting more nuked than cooked. And the final insult? You're paying sit-down restaurant prices for cafeteria quality. Dennys, breakfast first, steak last. Now, if Applebee's is hiding its problems under a pile of seasoning, Dennys is doing the culinary equivalent of juggling flaming torches while blindfolded. Known for pancakes, hash browns, and late-night eggs, Dennys still insists on offering steak, which is about as logical as ordering sushi from a gas station. Here's the thing. Dennys cooks steak on the same flat-top griddle they use for bacon, eggs, and hash browns. That means your premium ribeye just took a romantic grease bath in whatever breakfast scraps were on there 5 minutes ago. Seasoning? Either they dump so much salt on it you could use it to preserve meat for the winter, or they forget seasoning altogether like they're feeding robots. And let's not ignore the cuts themselves. Thin, barely marbled, and leaning more toward utility grade than anything resembling steakhouse quality. And, just to add insult to injury, the steak section of their menu is basically an afterthought. 2 or 3 options buried between chicken and fish like they're hoping you won't notice. The Capital Grille, when luxury gets lazy. Here's where it gets tricky. The Capital Grille used to be the gold standard of upscale steak. Walking in felt like stepping into a club where the beef was aged longer than some relationships. But in recent years, it's like paying Tesla prices and getting a golf cart. The first hit? Your wallet. Prices have been climbing like a cat up a curtain, while portion sizes are shrinking faster than a wool sweater in the dryer. A $50 steak 2 years ago is now pushing $70, and you're getting less of it. And don't think you're guaranteed quality for that premium. Reviews have been rolling in saying that 1 week you'll get a perfect steak, the next it's dry, overcooked, and buried under a mountain of butter or sauce. All tricks to hide that they overcooked your $70 centerpiece. Even their famous dry aging process isn't immune to cost cutting. Customers swear it's not the same as it used to be, and when a high-end steakhouse starts cutting corners on that, you can bet your taste buds will notice. Outback Steakhouse, Spice over substance. Outback wants you to think of rugged outdoor cooking, Australian adventure, and no rules, just right. In reality, more like all spice, no steak. Their seasoning blend isn't just generous, it's overwhelming. They coat their steaks with more spices than a pharaoh's tomb, and it's not because they're feeling generous. Nope, it's because all that seasoning covers up the fact that meat quality varies wildly by location. One Outback in Texas might serve you a decent cut, while another in Ohio serves you something that tastes like it was flown in from a discount freezer warehouse. And lately, they've been quietly switching to thinner cuts across the menu. Problem is, thin steaks just don't cook the same. They can't get that perfect crust-to-center ratio that makes a steak memorable. The sides and bread? Still a hit. But if the bread is the highlight of your steakhouse visit, you're in the wrong steakhouse. Sizzler, the steakhouse. That time, and customers forgot. Sizzler's story is like watching your favorite rock band go from sold-out arenas to playing Tuesday night at the local bowling alley. This chain once had a respectable presence, but now, locations are disappearing faster than a vampire convention at sunrise. And there's a reason for that. People stopped coming back. Why? Because the steak became a sad side hustle to their salad bar. Seriously, when the highlight of your steakhouse visit is loading up on croutons and ranch dressing, you know something's gone wrong. Cost-cutting has been the death blow here. Lower-grade meat, smaller portions, and in some cases, pre-cooked steaks that just get reheated on a flat top before serving. Imagine ordering a steak and realizing it's basically the microwave dinner version of fine dining. The few remaining locations stretch their beef budget thinner than their actual steaks. And it shows. Dry, overcooked, and underwhelming is the default experience. At this point, Sizzler survives more on nostalgia than actual steak quality. And nostalgia won't save you from a rubbery bite. Black Angus, the steak roulette. Black Angus sounds like a name you can trust, right? Unfortunately, eating here is like playing steak roulette. You never know if you're getting a winning hand or biting into overpriced cardboard. The problem starts with their franchise model. Each location operates like a cowboy without a ranch boss, sourcing meat however they want, training staff however they see fit. That means the difference between a decent ribeye and a total disaster can be as random as the table you're seated at. And when cost-cutting kicks in, it's brutal. Many locations now use frozen steaks to save money and extend shelf life. But here's the thing about frozen meat. It loses moisture when thawed, and moisture is where tenderness and flavor live. Without it, you get a dry, lifeless steak no amount of sauce can save. Speaking of sauce, they use it like a Band-Aid, drowning bland cuts in marinades and toppings in a desperate attempt to make them interesting. It's the culinary version of putting perfume on spoiled milk. Add to that high kitchen staff turnover, lack of training, and cooks who sometimes seem more afraid of the grill than in control of it. And you've got a recipe for inconsistency that drives steak lovers to the competition. All right, we've trudged through the wasteland of overcooked sirloins, frozen ribeyes, and grill marks painted on like bad makeup. We've seen chains that treat beef like an afterthought and seasoning like a crime scene cover-up. But it's not all bad news, because for every sad, rubbery bite out there, there's a steakhouse that still treats the craft like an art form. The kind of place where the grill is respected, the beef is chosen with care, and the first bite makes you forget every disappointing dinner you've ever had. So now, we're shifting gears, from the bottom of the barrel to the top of the food chain. These are the Steakhouse Legends, the consistent crowd pleasers, the places that prove great steak isn't dead in America. Texas Roadhouse, volume meets quality. Some places think cranking out a lot of steaks means sacrificing quality. Texas Roadhouse looked at that logic, laughed in its face, and proved the opposite. This chain moves beef faster than cattle at a rodeo, and that's exactly why their steaks are fresher than most of the competition. When you're serving that many people, meat doesn't sit in a cooler for a week. It's constantly turning over. The result? You're getting a steak that was delivered recently, not something thawed from the Jurassic era. They also set the bar high on beef grades, USDA choice or better for every cut. That means more marbling, more flavor, and better texture. They're pickier about beef than a county fair judge with a magnifying glass. Here's where they really crush it: hand-cutting steaks in-house at every location. That's not just for show. It ensures the cut, thickness, and quality are controlled by someone who actually works there, not a machine in a factory 500 miles away. And their seasoning? Restraint, people. Enough to enhance the natural flavor without burying it under a spice avalanche. Throw in prices that beat most casual steakhouses, and you've got one of the best value for quality ratios in the game. And yes, the fresh-baked bread and cinnamon butter are so good they could be their own restaurant. But here, they're just the warm-up act. Peter Luger Steakhouse, old school perfection. If Texas Roadhouse is the modern efficiency master, Peter Luger is the time capsule of steak greatness. They've been doing this longer than some countries have existed, and they haven't messed with the formula. Their beef standards? Stricter than a military inspection. Every cut is USDA Prime dry-aged beef, the absolute top tier in American meat grading. Prime beef is to regular steak what a Rolls-Royce is to a used pickup. Both will get you from point A to B, but one does it with a whole lot more style. Then comes the magic: 28 plus days of in-house dry aging. That's when enzymes tenderize the meat and moisture evaporates, concentrating the flavor until every bite hits like a flavor uppercut. The menu is laser-focused. No 20-page diner book here. Their crown jewel is the porterhouse, and they cook it with a broiling method that creates a crust so perfect you'd think it was carved by a sculptor. The inside stays juicy and tender. The outside has that deep, rich sear you dream about after a good steak dinner. Peter Luger doesn't need gimmicks, seasonal menus, or Instagram trends. They just serve world-class steak every single time and make you wonder why everyone else complicates it. Longhorn Steakhouse, the consistency king. Now, not everyone can make it to Brooklyn for Peter Luger, and not everyone wants to wait 2 hours at Texas Roadhouse. That's where Longhorn Steakhouse comes in, the chain that's more reliable than a Swiss watch. They've nailed the art of consistency. Every location grills steaks the same way, with strict timing and temperature controls. No cowboy freelancing, no "that's how we do it here" nonsense. It's standardized across the board, and it works. Like Texas Roadhouse, they stick with USDA choice or better beef. That means the average steak here is already starting from a better place than a lot of casual competitors. And they're not afraid to tackle tricky cuts. Their fire-grilled T-bone and renegade sirloin are proof they can handle both high-end and affordable options without dropping the ball. Customer reviews back it up. Longhorn doesn't just promise quality, they actually deliver it. And recently, they've doubled down on staff training and sourcing upgrades, so the future looks even stronger. This is the chain you recommend to friends when they ask, "Where can I get a good steak without taking out a second mortgage?" Fogo de Janeiro, the endless meat parade. Some steakhouses make you choose one cut and hope for the best. Fogo de Janeiro laughs at that idea and says, "Why stop at one when you can have them all?" This is steak night turned into a carnival, the Brazilian rodizio style that flips the entire dining experience on its head. Here's how it works. You sit down, and the servers start circling your table like friendly sharks. each carrying skewers loaded with different cuts of meat: picanha, filet mignon, ribeye, lamb, chicken, all carved right onto your plate until you surrender. You literally have to flip a card to red to make them stop. The magic is in the cooking method. Open flame grilling over charcoal gives these cuts a smoky, charred exterior while keeping the inside juicy and tender. It's a flavor you just can't get from a gas grill or flat top. And because each cut comes out fresh in small batches, nothing sits around getting cold. It's steak at peak flavor, bite after bite. Yes, it's a higher price point, but that's because you're not paying for one steak. You're paying for an unlimited steak experience with an all-you-can-eat salad bar that could be its own meal. It's indulgent, theatrical, and downright addictive. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, the science of sizzle. While Fogo feels like a festival, Ruth's Chris is a Broadway show, and the star of the performance is that 500-degree plate your steak arrives on. You hear it before you see it. A sizzling soundtrack that tells you you're about to cut into something special. The plate isn't just for drama. It keeps your steak at the perfect temperature throughout your meal and helps lock in flavor. Add a dollop of butter that melts instantly, coating each bite in rich, silky goodness, and you'll understand why people rave about it. But the foundation here is quality. Ruth's Chris uses USDA Prime beef aged 21 to 28 days. Enough time for the meat to develop deeper, more complex flavors without losing its natural juiciness. The broiling method is precise, turning out steaks with the same sear and doneness every single time. It's not cheap, but it's one of the few places where you truly feel like the price matches the plate. Wolfgang's Steakhouse. The protege becomes the master. Wolfgang's didn't just pop out of nowhere. It was started by a former head waiter from Peter Luger, someone who knew exactly how a legendary steakhouse should run. That's like graduating from Steak University summa cum laude and then opening your own campus. The playbook here is familiar. USDA Prime dry-aged beef, strict sourcing, and a porterhouse that's the crown jewel. But Wolfgang's adds its own touch. A commitment to consistency across every location, so you can walk into one in New York or Miami and know you'll get the same perfect char, tenderness, and flavor. The presentation is pure old-school steakhouse, white tablecloths, polished service, and sides that are just as thoughtfully made as the steaks. It's a place where you feel like you're part of a tradition, not just a customer. So there you have it. From the sad, overcooked pretenders at the bottom to the sizzling, dry-aged royalty at the top. We've seen chains that cut corners until the flavor disappears, and we've seen ones that double down on quality until every bite feels like a celebration. The lesson? Great steak starts with great meat and respect for the craft. And if this guide saved you from wasting $40 on something you could have grilled better at home, or gave you a new spot to try this weekend, do us a favor. Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another brutally honest ranking. This is Frugal Pro. We taste the truth so your wallet doesn't have to.